Perry Shelgren is being mobbed.
Looking long for the bomb. He has a man.
Welcome to NEC Tailgate. This is a preview show for Week 1 in the Northeast Conference. Now, if you were watching college football, Week 0, of course, is a thing. Week 0 came and it went with an FCS over FBS upset, but without any NEC teams in action. So for 7 out of our 8 schools, we get to start in Week 1. You can see those matchups over here, along with times, dates, TV listings, but you'll also see Stonehill has a bye in Week 1. They're going to start next week, but Stonehill gives us a little bit more chance to talk with head coach Eli Gardner, which we'll be doing. So you can look for that interview next week. We have a chance to sit down with Coach Gardner, talk about camp, talk about what his expectations are for this Stonehill squad. Really, they've been a great story coming out from Division II. Immediately, they're competitive. So really looking forward to having that chance to talk with Coach Gardner. Once again, look for that right here next week. So once again, taking a look, your 3 NEC Thursday night games are what we're going to be talking about today on this Wednesday episode of NEC Tailgate. We'll save the Saturday games for the usual Friday time. So on Thursday night, first of all, Mercyhurst, first Division I football game. They travel down to Wheeling. Then you've got Duquesne heading all the way to the Glass Bowl, Toledo, Ohio. They're looking forward to that one. Then finally, Central Connecticut State University is going to Central Michigan. They ought to call it the Central Bowl. So 2 MAC matchups there for the NEC. Once again, you can catch those on ESPN+, and then the Mountain East Network, which is not really a thing. You're going to want to go to Wheeling University's website. They ought to be streaming the game for free. So if you're not an ESPN Plus subscriber, not a problem at all. You're going to have a chance to see NEC action, I believe, for free on Thursday nights. So that might be the game to look for. So let's start with Mercyhurst in their first game in Division I, traveling down to Wheeling University, the Cardinals of the Mountain East Conference. Now, it's hard to say that what everyone's saying about this game because this is a Division II team. Obviously, Mercyhurst, last game they played, they were Division II as well. So, maybe some familiarity, maybe some similarities in terms of where Mercyhurst is at currently. We're not really sure yet, but not a lot of buzz around this game to really talk to you about. One thing that's pretty interesting is the Cardinals have 2 quarterbacks. They've got Javon Davis and Landon Lutz. Davis got injured a year ago. Lutz stepped in. I believe played 9 games, played very well. So this might be a case where if you've got 2 quarterbacks, there are 2 schools of thought here, right? Either you have 2 quarterbacks, you have no quarterbacks, or when you have 2 quarterbacks, you have 2 quarterbacks. They could have transferred from West Liberty as well. They do lose their top 2 pass catchers, but they bring in this Chris Charles, who second leading pass catcher for West Liberty, but we're talking 69 catches, 823 yards, 9 touchdowns. Pretty good player to be your number 2 over West Liberty. So he comes over to Wheeling University. He's a Cardinal now, and Mercyhurst is going to step up against this guy. So beyond that, the offensive line for Wheeling, from what we understand, is pretty experienced. They should have a fair amount of players, but Wheeling went 5-5 a year ago, again in Mountain East in Division II, but you have to remember Mercyhurst, a 2-win team down in that level last year as well. So I really don't know what to expect. I'm really looking forward to seeing Mercyhurst on the big stage for the first time. This is definitely a game I'll be watching, and we'll have highlights of it for you after the fact. So not really sure how to predict this one. The NEC homer in me wants to say, you got to go with Mercyhurst or the Division I program. But the Cardinals have been a solid team. They're not a team, even in Division II, that finishes below 500. So, they're definitely solid. This will be a challenge for Mercyhurst, and again, you don't know which quarterback you'll see. You've got this wide receiver transfer, and who is exceptional. And for one of those cornerbacks, that may be the best player they play against all year. You never do know. Usually in those FCS matchups, one of those players is exceptional. There's someone who's got a guy he's going up against they don't have at that higher level. He's that good. Probably going to see the same thing with Wheeling versus Mercyhurst here. At least one of those Wheeling players is going to be exceptional for the Mercyhurst team to take on. So, hard to say a prediction on this one. We'll give the edge to Mercyhurst just because, NEC, of course, but the Division I moving up, maybe they're able to do a little bit more than Wheeling's been able to do in the offseason just with that change. And we've got Central Connecticut traveling from hard-hitting New Britain up to Mount Pleasant in Michigan, in the central part of Michigan, of course. You can tell that by the name. Central Connecticut last year, we all know they were an offensive powerhouse, have a former offensive coordinator that's the head coach. That happens, but they're giving up 31.2 points per game. Too many. And it's too many against a coach like Jim McElwain, who is the head coach still in Central Michigan. It's been about 6 years now, believe it or not. He was formerly at Florida and in Colorado State before that. He's had some success everywhere he's been. However, Central Michigan has been pretty much the hardest program for him so far. Now, he's done well. However, last year was a 5-7 mark. They're not bowl eligible. And then the year prior to that, 2022, they actually go 4-8. So the last couple years, the seat might be warming up a little bit up in Mount Pleasant. However, this year they bring back quite a bit. They're looking at their top 2 running backs coming back, their top 4 wide receivers coming back. Only thing you need, right, is for the quarterback to come back, but he actually transfers out to Sam Houston State. Here's the good news. They weren't pleased with the quarterback play last year. There's definitely some improvements to be made. And so they went ahead and brought in Joey Labus. I'm not sure, but the kid comes in from Iowa. Now, my first thought is, I don't know how I feel about an Iowa kid coming in. I've seen Iowa's offense. I've never been too impressed from it, and this guy over there had one start. So it's not even the best Iowa quarterback. That's Spencer Petras, who transferred in elsewhere. However, this is who you've got at Central Michigan, and apparently he had one heck of a spring. So here's your calculus for this game. You've got a fantastic offensive head coach. You've got 4 veteran wide receivers, 2 veteran running backs, and a quarterback who the coaches cannot stop talking about. That's a bad combination if you're Central Connecticut, and last year you give up over 30 points a game. Now, you never know. This Central Connecticut team, I think, is going to be improved. I think they'll be much better. However, that's still a tough way to start out your opening game of the season. On the road, Thursday night, the Chips fans are going to be fired up out there. So it's hard to like Central Connecticut's odds here, particularly after Kent State last year, only team Kent State beat. So it's a tough challenge. You really want to like the Blue Devils here. Week 1 is the best time to get these kind of games. You make your best improvement from week 1 to week 2, so catch the Chips before they make that improvement. And you've seen that around college football week 0. Georgia Tech upsets Florida State. Nevada takes SMU to the wire. So this is when it happens. Everything on paper, what I'm telling you is that on paper, you can't like Central Connecticut here. That's on paper, though. And we all know how football games go. They're never played on paper. And finally, we will call the marquee matchup of Thursday night. Toledo Rockets, Duquesne Dukes, the Glass Bowl. Let's go ahead and give you a little bit of a peek at what the Glass Bowl is and why it is so legendary.
You don't always think of the Glass Bowl in Toledo as one of the premier stadiums in college football, but maybe you should. Toledo's home stadium has been home to a bowl game, a MAC championship, and of course the Toledo Rockets, coming off an 11-win season, winning 68% of their games in the Glass Bowl and 75% since 1990. The stadium was built in 1936 as part of the Works Progress Administration. Now, 1936, it sounds awfully old, and it is, but actually in college football, this is not as old as it seems. It's actually the second oldest stadium in the MAC, and in the SEC, it would rank something like 13th. But of course, age is just a number. When it was built, it was actually University Stadium. It didn't become the Glass Bowl until later. During World War II, Toledo discontinued football. Most of the football-age playing athletic young men were overseas, and in 1946, it was found in disrepair. It was renamed the Glass Bowl as a nod to Toledo's premier industry, but also because of the glass blocks installed throughout the stadium and a glass electric scoreboard. So now the Glass Bowl, it became a postseason game in 1946 and actually continued until 1949 when it was discontinued. But your trivia question as to a rare Ohio bowl game, the Glass Bowl was played as a postseason game. And of course, Toledo's been successful there. You think about the dynasties of college football, you don't often think about the Toledo Rockets, but again, maybe you should. From 1969 to 1971, Toledo went 35-0. And of course, attendance skyrocketed at that point, but Toledo's been pretty successful throughout their history. By the time the MAC had expanded enough to have a championship game, Toledo had a tall task in the Glass Bowl of knocking off Marshall, who to that point had never lost a MAC championship game. In fact, no one else had won it.
We are in Toledo amongst the fireworks. Marshall against Toledo. It's the MAC Conference Championship. Marshall coming in number 18 at 10-1. Toledo at 8-2.
And really to fit the theme of this video, Marshall was a dynasty, one that's kind of forgotten, but this is one of the forgotten great games. Marshall was leading 20-0 in the end of the first quarter, and a massive come-from-behind rally ensued. Toledo actually scores 25 points in the third quarter, and they won 36-41. This is more than one of the best MAC championship games or one of the best Glass Bowl games. This is one of the best games of all time. And the fans' jubilation rushing the field at the Glass Bowl, kind of a nice enduring memory. So it also just looks like college football. So when the Dukes take on the Rockets Thursday night at the Glass Bowl, this is a game that should reek of history because of where it's played. And it's a big challenge for the Dukes. The Glass Bowl is not an easy place to win, but it is a legendary piece of college football, and it's a really cool experience for the NEC squad.
So that's where Duquesne's traveling to play. It's the Glass Bowl. It's been there forever. It's the second oldest stadium in the MAC, in fact, but the oldest stadium in the MAC happens to be the Ohio Bobcat Stadium. Why is this relevant? Well, it's actually the place where Duquesne went in and has beaten a MAC school before. Toledo's coming off an 11-win season. They're fantastic. They actually should have gone undefeated in regular season last year. They, in week one, take Illinois down to the wire. They controlled that game, but they can't quite pull off the upset. They end up losing 28-30. And then they don't lose again for the entire regular season. MAC championship game up in Detroit. Anything can happen. They do lose to Miami of Ohio, so this is not a MAC championship team, although in 2022, they were just that. So they then travel to the Arizona Bowl. They're going to play Wyoming, but it's head coach Craig Bowl for Wyoming, his last game. Cowboys aren't leaving Arizona without a win. So they finished 11-3, but it's funny to say this, that 11-3 team was better than 11-3. Really just one tough break against Illinois, and then, there's two games at the end of the year. In particular, you can understand how the Wyoming one happened. It's a talented squad, too. Toledo tends to recruit the best in the MAC, and they actually had a first-round draft pick go this past year. But that might be an interesting theme here, is that they had a guy go. See, Toledo went 11-3 last year, but now they've got 4 guys coming back on offense, 4 guys coming back on defense. That's not very much. This is now going to be a young, more inexperienced Rockets team. They're still going to be talented, but Duquesne has shown it can beat a MAC team. In fact, Ohio also tends to be one of the better MAC squads. So Toledo's on a different level, right? I mean, this would be a very, very big win for the Dukes program. A program that has its eye on playing these big games, loves to play up to FBS competition. So this is going to be a great game, I really do think, because there's this younger Toledo team. You make your best improvements from week 1 to week 2. So if you're Duquesne, get to week 2 form right now. You know, come out swinging. If you can play well, if you're gelled together already, and if this Toledo team's not, you know, this is your chance to pull off an upset at the last bowl. And I really do think they can do it. I'm looking forward to seeing this game quite a bit because I think Duquesne can play with them in luck. If you're looking at the 8 NEC schools on paper, and you're looking at it and trying to figure out who's the best squad, who's the squad most likely right now, do I think to beat an FBS team, any FBS team? And it's got to be Duquesne, right? They've got this quarterback coming back, Darius Parente, who's going to be incredible all season. And then their receiving votes in the FCS polls, top 25 votes, not ranked yet. They're receiving those votes, and they're a returning champion, right? They went to the FCS playoffs last year. So this is the team most likely to pull it off. It's almost funny saying that if you switched and they played Central Michigan or they played Utah State, you know, you really like Duquesne's chances for those games. As it is, Toledo's an excellent squad. If you're not someone who watches NEC ball, you know, if you're someone who just watches, you know, top SEC, Big Ten, you know, ACC schools, you might not understand where I'm coming from here. But if you know football and you know basically, you know, there's more than good teams just in the top couple conferences, Toledo's a great program, and this would be a fantastic win for the Dukes. So that does it. We are going to see these 3 games on Thursday night, but we'll be back on Friday to preview the Saturday games, and then be back early in the week next week. We'll have the highlights from all those games. We'll go over them in detail, and I'm just really looking forward to this season of NEC ball. This is AJ. I'm the host, signing off. Be safe out there.